Mike Funk. I work with the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and I'm an agricultural soil and water quality technician. And I've been a part of this farm for a few years doing different projects, and we're excited to be starting now into the ONFARM project to monitor water quality and soil health.
I'm Gord MacPherson. This is my wife Rete. We've lived at this farm since '85. All this soil health, as far as on our farm, started back in '87. So it's been a while. So we've been in. I think this will be the fourth different project. I think we started out with soil conservation as far as introducing no-till, different type of management practices, and I still do no-till on the wheat and soybean side of production. And then now we've gone to more into cover crops.
A little history about this place. We bought it in '85. We started out being mixed crop and with hogs, and now we're over to laying hens and still the crops. We've given up some of our rented land to the boys, and so we're downsized to about
280 acres.
280 from about 600.
As a participant in ONFARM, what are you hoping to get? I mean, you're being very gracious with both of you for hosting a trial on your farm and letting us tinker around with the tile water, but what do you hope as a producer to get out of this program and this field data?
So I guess, the overall problem that this all starts is our phosphorus loading in the lakes. As a steward of the land, I think everybody wants to reduce that. And so with this project, we're definitely going to find out whether using these cover crops or different best management practices like no-till or whatever is going to help in reducing this phosphorus loading. And that's just one thing that's better for our overall environment and where we live.
Worked with has been great.
Yeah.
And we've learned something, and we've progressed, and like you said, Gord, being stewards for the land, we've come a long ways, really.
Yeah.
From '87 to now.
They've been great to work with, so that's been easy to come on board as a cooperator, to have the people behind us.
Over the last number of years, you've been using cover crops. Can you tell me what you've been using, how long you've been using it, and maybe some of the results, or what effect you're seeing on your crops from the cover crops?
Okay. Yeah, sure, Mike. So basically, we've been using a cereal rye, so winter rye. It's usually planted in the fall. So here at the home farm, 150 acres, a little bit more than that. Usually rotated between sweet corn, processing sweet corn, and soybeans. So usually that rye is planted after those crops are harvested. So we've probably done that for about 6 years. And I think in that 6 years' time, we're actually already seeing a benefit as far as soil loss, water erosion, and actually, I would, without a doubt, we've seen increasing yield. So it's improved our soil health immensely, and maybe one of the challenges that we've had with the planting that in the fall after those crops, because we're planting in the late fall, like usually mid-October, we do get into an issue of getting a good stand, because sometimes you have a lot of weather-related problems. I would say at 5 out of the 6 we've had fairly decent stands. It's been a beneficial program for sure.
Since you've been using cover crops on the farm, have you had to change or modify your equipment or anything in your practices, your cropping, anything that's changed because of that, adopting this practice?
So we've basically been relying on a custom operator to come in with a drill and basically drill that winter rye into our acreage here. So that's where we get into a bit of an issue. Usually when you're waiting for a custom operator, he's maybe not coming for a week or maybe 2 weeks when you really want it done. So that's probably one thing on our list, that maybe we'd like to have our own drill so that we could do it at an optimum time, and then maybe that would help us with a better stand. So that's probably one piece of equipment that we would like to have. As far as we've modified our planter, we've put no-till equipment on our planter so that we no-till all our soybeans, and there again, and with our wheat, we have it custom planted. In most cases, that custom operation is a no-till drill. This farm here probably hasn't been plowed, moldboard plowed for, I wouldn't know how many years, probably 25, 30 years.
A lot of guys or a lot of folks, when they're getting into cover crops, the first year doesn't necessarily work out. They have to do some iterations, figure out the rates, the timing, termination, all these different factors in order to kind of fine tune how they use it. So over the years, you said 6 years you've been trying cover crops. How has that changed, or how has that journey been for you?
Yeah, so I don't know if I really changed as far as the rate too much. Maybe the first year I started out at 80 pounds of the cereal rye or winter rye that I planted. I think last year we're down to about 50.
Do you terminate the cover crop yourself, spray it off in the spring?
Yeah, so it's custom done. So we get it sprayed off. We have a local Agri-Mart here that I call them up and get them to burn it off. Usually with soybeans, of course, you're planting sometime in May, so that's usually around the 1st of May. The June, sweet corn's not planted till the end of June, so we can leave that a little bit longer. So it's like, the first week in June. So it gets, actually, it's amazing how much growth with rye. I know last year it got to be where it was almost in head.
Is this a practice that you only do at the home farm here or on owned land, or is it something you do across your rented and owned acres?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Mike. You find, like, with your own land that you can maybe justify the cost, but then when you have to put it on rented land, there's an extra cost there to make it work, and then the landowner doesn't really understand that, this is part of an environmental improvement that you're trying to do, and it is a bit of a challenge to do it on your rented acres. Hopefully we start to see a change in that, and this is maybe what ONFARM's going to bring to more people in the area, in the province, and that'll lead to more cover crop acres. Mike and his team have a very interesting project going on at the back here of our farm, and I think it's worthwhile for everybody in the area, farm-wise, and anybody involved in the environment that should come and have a look and see what they're doing.
Upper Thames, our role as a conservation authority in this project is to monitor the runoff, both tile and surface runoff that comes off this field. And it's really an important role from our perspective. We are trying to promote practices across the landscape locally here that will improve soil health and water quality running through our watershed. We can find local data that helps producers understand how a practice like cover crops might impact their farm. If we can help with that local information and getting some research to validate these practices, that's really beneficial from our perspective. This field presented a very neat opportunity to compare cover crops and no cover crops on the same field. Right now I'm standing on Waskob, a water and sediment control basin, and it's actually a kind of a unique one because it's got two inlets. So it's in the shape of a T, and there's an inlet on both sides, and they're actually totally separate catchments. And so we're monitoring one side that has a treatment of a cover crop and comparing it to the other side of this catchment that drains into the berm that has no cover crop. We're standing on the berm right now, and my left and right there's separate catchments that flow in towards the Hickenbottoms, and these are draining the overland runoff from the field, and they go underground into the tile. And behind me we have a monitoring shed. We also have a monitoring station for weather. The monitoring at this site is event-based, meaning the tiles aren't running every day of the year. When we have a rain or a snowmelt event, that's when the tiles are flowing. And so our monitoring takes samples from the tile water throughout an event, and then we're using the concentration data of phosphorus in the tile and matching that with the flow data to estimate the total load of phosphorus coming off of these fields. So the on-farm project is really valuable as a tool for gathering data on-farm with cooperators who are farming the land and practicing things or trying things that they would like to try. So it really, it's where the rubber meets the road as far as taking academic research narrowing it down into something that we'd like to test on a field scale, and seeing how it performs both from the farmer's perspective for soil health and from a water quality perspective. And so it's really valuable to have that all happening, and can't do it without great cooperators who allow this to go the way it does.